Good morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by that fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. Two friends today, two great friends. I'm so excited about this one. Kind of kept this under wraps a little bit. I haven't really told anybody about this show, but it's the Ty Cobb show with two of my favorite YouTubers. So I don't know how long we're going to go. I don't know how long they have, but I feel like this could be a long one. So buckle up and have some fun. We're going to talk about Ty Cobb, not that much about Ty Cobb himself, a little bit here and there, but mostly show two incredible Ty Cobb collections, which I am very fortunate to have seen pictures of, and you will shortly. So let me bring them on.
Hey, Dan.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
What do you say there, porcupine?
Oh,
Hey, beaver feet.
I was hoping for liver lips.
Yeah. Well, I can go all day. My wife's out of town, so hey, man, we can go however long you want.
It's early here. I'm just waking up with a brrr. Had a tied one over last night.
Well, I do have some news about the channel. This is going to be the last show that I do with this background.
Oh, wow.
I am moving the whole card room from one part of the apartment to another really like set off part of the apartment. The great thing about when your kids grow up and move out,
yeah,
space.
Isn't it great how big the places are after they leave?
Yeah.
So my wife, who's a saint, is allowing me to take over a large chunk of one of the rooms that has been emptied. So I will have
Very nice.
I got a new camera, got a new microphone. I got all
You're in the game.
Two new like display cabinets that I'm putting together. So after I'm done with you guys, I'm going to be Mr. Construction.
Then
today.
you could get, after we're done,
That's
you
awesome.
can get the super collectors back in there. Tony, it takes two collectors here to make up one super collector for Ty Cobb. That's for sure.
No. Well, I am sure there are Cobb collectors out there who hopefully will watch this video and say, well, I have this card or that card, because there are a lot of them out there. But having seen your collections, I can say that you're not just super collectors, Mike. You are a duper collector. So.
Super duper.
Super duper.
I wish. So many I don't have.
Enough of my rambling. So, the way I start these shows is to talk about collecting history and why you got into Ty Cobb specifically. I know a lot of collecting history because both, Mike, you've been on a lot of people's channels, frankly, over the last couple of years. And Tony, you have your own channel, so I know the history. But just the short story of how you started collecting generally and how you got particularly into Ty Cobb. Let's start with you, Tony.
Well, generally, like everybody else, I collected as a kid and then went dormant for a while, and during college and getting married, and got back into it, I guess, around 3 years ago. But, unlike the kids today who have that big hit card they're chasing, in the mid-90s, they started that stuff. But I wasn't collecting then. So, when I was collecting, the hit cards were the vintage stuff. Like, so when you picked up a Beckett, there was the 52 Mantle or the Hannes Wagner or Ty Cobb's on the cover of it. And those were our gold cards that we couldn't afford with our lawn cutting money at the time. And so when I got back into it, I got a business that's been successful, and all of a sudden I could buy those cards. So, I wasn't that familiar even growing up with the pre-war stuff. It was more the golden age, the 50s and the 60s. I was, I knew all those cards by heart. I knew what they looked like. I could tell you what a 62 Aaron looked like or what a Pete Rose rookie. But the pre-war stuff that I did know was the Ty Cobb T206 cards because they were all over the place. You could always see them. I never dreamed I would even see one, because when I was a kid collecting, we didn't have avenues for that. Now, we would see them in the card guides and stuff, but I'd never seen one in person. And so, when I got back into it, that was something I wanted to grab. So in Ty Cobb, such a historical guy in the game, and just the name, people know that name if you're a baseball fan. So it was a natural guy to try to grab when I got back in. And so that's what I did. Oh, by the way, I was so intrigued by him that I started diving into books too. So that's another route. And so I got interested in his history and that.
Oh, yeah.
And once I get into that, then I start wanting more cards. And then when I get more cards, then I get wanting more history, and it just kind of plays on itself. So I left that. That's an important part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Cobb is historically, in many respects, a polarizing person, and some of that is unfair because of what's the biography from Al, whatever his name was, that came out in like the 50s.
Al Stump, yeah.
Stump was unfair to him because a lot of that came out after Cobb died. And then Ken Burns
Forged
baseball.
a lot of his stuff too, Al
Yeah.
Stump did. Forged a lot of letters, a lot of signatures, a lot of things. I mean, it
Stole
just made
stuff.
up a bunch of shit.
Yeah, he stole stuff from Cobb's estate even. He was a
Mhm.
rotten dude, man.
Yeah.
So Cobb ends up getting, in some ways, a historically, unfair portrait, I think. But you got to take him back also and say that, like, he was kind of a difficult person and
He was.
had some, behaviors.
He
that
played
were
to win is what he
dramatic.
really did. That he rubbed people the wrong way is because it was he was not the best player, the best hitter. They say he came. It was his game. It was his base. He learned that early on, even as like an 18-year-old rookie. Story they tell is how he slid into third base, came in hot, and the third baseman, kind of like hit him in the head with an elbow and kind of dazed him, knocked him silly. He said, "Oh, that's how you." And he says he had no hard feeling towards the guy at all. He goes, "That guy has been in the league, 10 years. That's the way the game is played." These are the things that he learned from
Yeah.
when he was young. Also, he was eating popcorn in the outfield one time, and a ball came out there and it dropped down, and he threw to the plate, and it was late. And they lost the game. And another veteran came over to him and said, "Hey, you can be really something special. You're really good." He said, "But you got to knock that shit off."
Yeah.
And these are the kind of things that influenced him to be the player that he was, to where it just it was war. And like they said that he wasn't the best player, but he learned to be, and so he was ahead of his time, really. And I mean, just to hit on what Tony said about that, my fascination with Cobb, and I tried to read as much as I could. I thought as a kid, I saw T206 cards around here and there. They were beat up like to hell. I mean, nothing like you see them today in the state that but occasionally you got to look at them, and never a Ty Cobb, but you knew that they were out there. And I had a fascination for old cards back then when I was a kid. I wanted the T206
Yeah.
Hans Wagner. I wanted the Mickey Mantle 52. I didn't want I like Mickey Mantle. But I wanted to always go back, even from when I was opening packs in 1972. I can remember finding a liquor store that still had like 1970 stock of cards,
Yeah.
and I would try to get up there and I'd buy as many packs as I could, and then try to run around, collect more pop bottles, try to get. And so I was always chasing the older cards, and I probably never thought that I could afford them. And then when I started buying, autographs and cards, again, I really focused on the cards I always wanted. And those
Yeah.
were mostly from the 50s and the 60s, knowing that I would work my way back, just not knowing that the pandemic would happen. I had just started to collect my Cobb, specifically my red Cobb. I got it, in part of a package deal. And so that was the first one that I always really wanted. And then just over time, in the last 5 years, just really, trying to hammer down as many as I could without going overboard. I mean, now I'm to a point too, the ones that I do want, I will need to go a little overboard, probably. And then plus the prices have just gone up. But
Well,
that's really my fascination with the guy.
yeah, it's you pointed out that early on his personality was affected by his teammates,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and so I pulled out a couple of cards that are not Ty Cobb cards. This is Matty McGuire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harry on the flip, but it's actually Matty McGuire, who was the
Yeah.
Tigers' left fielder and was a veteran when Cobb came in, and he was apparently hazing Cobb to the point where like Cobb began to become like it affected his personality. So
Mm-hmm.
Matty McIntyre is famous for making Cobb,
Yeah.
who Cobb ended up being, and of course
Yeah.
Sam Crawford. I
Yep.
was doing some reading, and I came across Crawford. I remember I had this card. I put it on IG and didn't get as many hits as I thought it would get. But
Well,
Crawford,
he's a Hall of Famer, and Ty Cobb was instrumental in getting him into the Hall of Fame. He
yeah,
rallied for him really hard
Yeah.
in the
but
1950s, I think, to get him in.
yeah, Crawford was like already an established star for the Tigers when
Mm-hmm.
Cobb came in, and then Cobb surpassed him. And I think there was always a certain animosity between the two of them over the years. So that
But after
becomes, I
they
think, part
retired,
of
they
the
became good friends. I mean, he and Sam
eventually, right?
Crawford, like he did with almost everybody. And
Well, they didn't become that great of friends because
no,
Crawford dogged him in the glory of their times. I mean, he didn't hold back. I remember Crawford. One of the things he said was, and he had that old voice, and he said he was still fighting the Civil War, and the guy said the I can't remember the author. Dang, that's terrible. But I love the book. But he said, yeah, he said he wasn't getting along with people. He said, but you got to ask yourself why. Why? He said, why like that? And you could hear his voice on the audio version. But yeah, he didn't like Cobb, man, even when he was old.
well,
Yeah,
he was instrumental also. Like he talked about integration in baseball. He was one of the first ones to talk about it,
Yeah.
how he was for it. Back in the 1940s, 1930s, he said they have every right to play the game as anybody. But
Yeah.
he's also talked about free agency because he had his own contract squabbles. So
yeah,
he was, and also one of the first millionaires in baseball.
Yeah.
And not because of baseball, it's because what he did with his money, how he
yeah,
invested it. He bought a shitload of Coca-Cola stock. He owned bottling plants,
Yeah.
and
He owned
he had
he was
millions.
part owner of car dealerships because he was in
Yeah,
Detroit. He was on the
right.
front end of
Of everything, of
automobile
GM
trade.
and
Dude
Coca-Cola.
was smart, man.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
I find really interesting is he and Joe Jackson grew up right at the same time, about an hour away from each other, one in Royston, Georgia, one in Greenville, South Carolina. And while they were both amazing hitters and set the world on fire, of course, Joe Jackson's all in the news right now. They were
Mhm.
so different from how
Oh
they
yeah.
grew up. Joe Jackson can't read or write. He was a lint head in a factory from the time he was 7 or 8 years old, never went to school.
And a
And
natural hitter,
yeah, and
according
then
to
you got
Cobb.
Cobb, whose dad was a professor. His dad at one point was a politician who
yeah,
was standing up for the rights of African Americans who got
Mhm.
blackballed and had to get out. And so you got these two different dichotomies that just kind of came together, and then they became friends later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
And
just
he
very
talks about
interesting.
how he would get inside of Joe Jackson's head. He would try
Yeah,
to, like, he would talk to him before a game, or he would totally ignore him when
yeah,
they were coming down to that batting title against
yeah,
each other. How he kind of snuck. And let's not forget, the guy won. I think maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he won like 12 batting titles.
yeah,
He rarely hit under, like, if you look at like 390, 389, 393, 400. He hit 400 like three times. Was it a
yeah,
different era? Yeah,
yeah,
some people did hit 400, but you need to do a shitload of hitting to
yeah.
make it to 400. I mean, his numbers are insane.
Joe
I
Jackson would have won 7 or 8 batting titles if he would have been in the National League during that
Right,
period. He didn't win one.
right.
Even his rookie year, he hit over 400 and didn't win the batting title.
Well, and then there was another one I think they said when he sat out the last two games of the year,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Nap Lajoie he bunted like eight
yeah,
times in a row, and they didn't field the ball. And then they
yeah,
came back and they said they added his stats one too many times, and they gave that title to Cobb too, a
yeah,
technicality, a couple of years later or whatever. But just a lot
yep,
of funny gamesmanship and stuff that happened back in the day. But just inaugural Hall of Fame, had the first ballot, most votes. Just probably the first superstar
yeah.
in baseball. And anybody that doesn't know about him, I suggest they read up on him a little bit. He could have done anything, and we were just lucky to have him play baseball. That's for sure.
yeah. His father was, as mentioned, a successful man, a state senator for a while.
Oh, let's not forget about it. His mom
And then
shooting
his
his
mom,
dad
so
when he was
3 weeks
18.
before Cobb debuted with the Tigers, his mother killed his father in like some weird sort of like
He came
jealousy.
home. I don't know. Do you know
Yeah.
that story, Tony? How
Yeah.
he cut? I don't know if he climbed through the window or he came
No.
home. He came
So
home early
so
from a business
the
trip or
the
something.
way Al Stump told the story, he had climbed up on top of the roof of the house and their room was upstairs. That's bogus. Their
Okay.
room was downstairs. He
Right.
was outside the window and he was peering in. He wasn't supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be home for 2 more days and he was peering in. So it scared her.
Right.
Back then, everybody had a gun. So she grabbed the pistol and shot him through the window and
Right.
then figured out it was him. So it was a little weird, but
Mm-hmm.
she was acquitted. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't do time for it.
No.
She
Crazy.
but that all happened right around the time he was starting. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 18.
parents, his father is dead, who he loved. He adored his
Mm-hmm.
father. His father's
Yeah.
dead. His mother's on trial. His teammates are roasting him. And
Right.
19 years old in a northern city that he's unfamiliar with. So yeah, I mean, it made him the player that he ended up being, and so
Yeah.
if you like Mike Petty said, if you want to learn more about Cobb, there's a lot out there. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put his stats up. I usually put a little screenshot of
I have
him.
a few stats for you here. What do you want to know? I know he's
No,
a
no.
three.
What I'm saying is I didn't want to really talk about his stats as much
Oh shit!
because
You don't
they're
want to talk
so
about his 367 lifetime average that he hit 323 years in a row. I mean, these are stats that you should know, and forget about his like 4191 hits, 4191. True, Rose had more, and
yeah.
but
The hits. He was the stolen base record. I mean, he retired with
yeah,
like 30 records or something.
Yeah.
And the irony of Crawford is that most of Cobb's records have been, his stolen bases and his hits and a lot of those things. But batting average obviously is still up there. But Crawford still holds the record for most career triples
Yeah.
and that's one of those records that's never going to get caught. So while
right,
Cobb had all those big numbers, a lot of them got surpassed while Crawford's is not. So
yeah,
anyway, this is a baseball card channel, so let's start looking at
right.
some baseball cards. Let me see. Is this in there? Yeah.
Well, that's why we love him. Oh boy, look
That's
at
not what I
that.
wanted. That's what I wanted. There we go.
There you go.
So I went to Strongsville with a Target. I didn't necessarily want to target an old mill, but this is the card that really spoke to me.
That's awesome.
It really is beautiful, and I love the back. It's a very, they say that's not too rare, but I never see them.
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
you see,
it's in the middle of the rarity.
uh-huh.
You have your Piedmonts and your Sweet Caps, and then you have like your Ty Cobb back, or
Yeah.
I guess
Polar bear.
American Beauty or whatever those ones are. Ooze It.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but I don't have an old mill other than this card, so I
I
figured
don't either.
that's a type collector kind of thing. The card
Mhm.
itself, while it has issues, obviously, the registration is remarkable.
Yeah.
And I had, Andrew from Nuff Said Cards, who I can't say enough about. That's a joke.
That's
Uh,
that's a super collector.
that
Enough
is super
said.
collector. Andrew looked at this card and he gave me the seal of approval, and I felt like I had really gotten like the ultimate kind of, the guy who everybody respects, his eye
Yeah, I
telling me
do.
that this is a extraordinarily high registration copy. That made me feel good. So I got it from Stan Locke, who, we went back and forth. I love Stan. I think he's a great guy.
He really is a neat guy. He loves our community too, and
Yeah, I
always
didn't
willing to
know him that well.
negotiate.
Oh, until like maybe the last year or so. But by Strongsville, we knew each other well enough that we
Yeah,
could cut through the BS
you
and
see
get
him a
right
lot more than we do
numbers.
too. You see him at
Yeah.
all the shows out back east, so you can build up a
So
relationship with him.
I had a bat on shoulder Cobb that was very creased. I couldn't. I didn't want it anymore. So I sold it to get some of the money that funded this, and
Good.
so that I felt like was a good.
And this
good.
is if you have to have one Cobb, that's the one.
Yep.
Right there.
That's the
Yeah.
other thing I
Because
felt.
it's readily available. There's some nice, ones and twos, and that's the way we like to buy them. Anyway, mostly, at least Tony and I know, and then you too, where they look good on the front, and if we don't care what they look like much on the back, even though this
Yeah.
back is beautiful for a 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my only Cobb. So from now on, all we're going to talk about is you guys and these photos.
Those look like
Yeah.
they're mine.
Those are
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
Those are nice. Look how nice. Boy, I've got a bad eye appeal eye.
Yeah.
I get photographs. I ask people to send me photographs, and sometimes they send, ones that I got to work on and edit and stuff. But Mike Petty sent me these gorgeous photographs, which I didn't really have to do anything
Yeah.
except put the slide
Good.
together.
I'm glad it worked out.
So
Yeah, those are
tell
beautiful.
us about some stories having to do with you
Well,
acquiring
the red
these.
Cobb, like I said, was the first one I had. The collector was downsizing about 2018. I got that in a deal with my Mickey Mantle, the 51 Mickey Mantle, the 51 Willie Mays, and it was a package deal. And he had 4 other Cobbs. One was a T205, the gold one. It was not as nice. And then I think he had a bat on or off, and this is the one that I picked because I wanted the red one, and I couldn't afford all of them. I would have, because I did take the Mays and the Mantle at the time, and this was like 2018, and I wasn't spending the same amount of money that I currently kind of do, so it was a stretch, but that's how I got that one. The green one was at a auction. I waited for that for quite a while. Those prices went sky high on the green during the pandemic, and they've settled down pretty nicely now, where you can get them. Also, another thing that I didn't know that I learned at Strongsville, they were telling me, Tony was telling me, like the Piedmont 350 and versus the 150s.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they're the color, you're always looking for that pop of green or red. I didn't realize that the 150s actually tend to have a little better color.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at all my cards and go, damn, if they're not all, they're all 350.
Yeah.
So, and they're not as rare or what, but they look pretty darn good. They don't have. I'm not big into creases, so they don't have creases. They have a little paper loss here and there, and the backs on those are all pretty clean. The 2 has a little tape residue on the back, but I tried to get them as centered as I could. Close
Yeah,
enough for
no,
me.
the eye appeal on all 3 of these is fantastic, especially the bat off. I should mention that just for viewers, that Ty Cobb has 4 cards in the T206 set. These are 3 of them. That's the one on the far right is the bat off shoulder. There's also a bat on shoulder we'll see shortly.
And I believe I won that at Love of the Game about 2017 or so, something like that.
Yeah, the
Or
color
maybe
on that
18.
is fantastic.
It really was nice. It's funny. It was the first thing I ever bought on Love of the Game. My first with Al when I got into the auctions, and I bid on that and another card, like right at the beginning of the auction. Then I never went back in to look. I bid them. I don't even know where I came up with the prices. I didn't have VCP or anything. And then about a month later, I get a call, and it's Al. He says, "Hey, you have some cards down here that haven't been paid for." I go, "You're kidding? What did I never. I didn't get the emails. Everything was blocked with the old server I had, and I still never was able to find it, and I never went back to log in. I figured I never won those, and so I never, it was just before I was really hooked in, and I said, shit, I gotta, I gave him a credit card right away, and then he delivered them right away. But that was I guess I was a deadbeat, and probably wondering why isn't this guy paying, but I literally didn't know, and
Oh
that was
man.
my first auction house win. I got a
No,
bad.
dang. It was almost your last one.
I know shit. I would have been blackballed in a hurry.
You know how
Yeah.
you have to give recommendations when you sign up to new auction houses. So,
Oh, you're not. We're going to talk about that too with another auction house. We're talking about Cobb today, but
okay.
I guess we get a story on that too. We'll save
I'm
it.
sure some of these other ones were purchased in auction houses, but so I hate to leave this screen because it's so beautiful. I literally just stared at it all for like an hour. So there's the bat on,
And mine too.
which is
Yep.
on the left there.
Mm-hmm. And I
And
think
then
I got that at eBay.
I
It
saw the
looked like
Philadelphia Caramel. Someone had it on IG, but it wasn't the card. It was like an artistic rendition.
Yeah.
And then the E90-1. So
That's a
This
really
is what
neat card, and I didn't want to pay, out the throat for it, to get it completely all red and with with no damage at all. It paid like maybe a 2 or 3 or even a 4 I've seen out there. And I've tried to bid on them, but they get very pricey. The twos can go up to 8 to 10,000, and more. And some people do collect that way, but I prefer to, I looked at the centering on this one, then I looked where the red was, and how it's all part of the card, the honest
yeah,
corners. Look at those corners on that.
yeah.
It's a beautiful card for a 1. And the back is nice. So that one doesn't, the 2.5 over here, this the bat on, it does have a little tape residue too. Almost looks like it was like in the same book as the other Cobb, even though I bought them at different places. They might
Right.
have been part of the same collection at one time. But that Philadelphia Caramel card is definitely a classic, and that's the one that Orlando bought from Stan. Was fortunate enough to watch that deal go down. It's much nicer than that, and I liked the one that Stan had there, but I already had it. I'm not an upgrader, and
So if you look at the E90-1 of Cobb, looks
Yeah.
very
yeah,
similar to the Crawford.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Coloring is the same. It's almost
yeah,
like, but you can tell it's not like they cheated. Like which is the caramel issue where like it's a bunch of cartoons and they all look the same.
yeah. They
This is
do that
this is
with the
actually, you can tell
Wagner.
that these are two different people. So
Uh-huh.
I
But
just
though
thought
they
that was,
do that with it is a little cartoonish. I only like a few cards from that set, and Cobb being one of them for
yep,
sure. But they got a little overboard. I like the Wagner in that set. Not a big fan of the
yeah,
cartoonish. They use that, but that's the story on those cards. And again, auction wins for both of those.
yeah.
The Cobbs, but honest right there for me.
All right, so now we got Tony's
Now you're into the big boys.
rendition.
Here's the real cards now.
So the story on the green one right there. Sorry, my scans aren't as good. I just laid those out and try to take pictures and keep the light, keep the
I didn't
glare off.
mean to suggest that your pictures were not also outstanding.
They're nice. They're nice
If
pictures.
you knew
But
this,
I mean,
the
you need a scanner.
backstory, these pictures were extraordinarily easy to deal with. Also, I did, my backstory is that a lot of these photographs that I get, I've got to work on. I didn't have to work on any of your guys' stuff. So
Well,
We're
good.
really
professionals. We're super duper collectors.
you're a super duper people. That's what it is. So,
Thanks,
Right.
Dan. So,
anyway,
so that green one. So the first one I picked up, let's go to that first, was the bat off shoulder. And I grabbed that one. That was my first Cobb T206, I should say. And I grabbed that one off Fanatics, their weekly auction. I don't bid in their expensive auction because they want me to send in bank statements and deeds to my house and all this other crap. And I'm like, that's none of your business. All the other auction houses just say, hey, we're going to give you this much and go to it. So anyways,
Mhm.
I'm just against that. So I haven't done it. But this one was in a weekly auction. I thought I got a really good deal on it. It's a little off center. In pre-war, while I'd like to have them centered, I'm more into registration and color. That's kind of everybody's different in how they collect, but the registration looked clean on it and the color, and I thought I got a pretty good price on it. The next one I picked up was the red one, and I got that one at one of the big Nashville shows, and it was a dealer out of Georgia, and I bet he had 10 red Cobbs. And so, one of the great things, kind of like in Strongsville when I bought my 33 Gaudy Lou Gehrig, Tim Payne had 3 of them in there, and I could look and see which one I like the best out of them. And so, in pre-war, again, I'm looking for color and registration. And that I picked the one of the Cobbs that just, man, that sucker right there, you can zoom in on it, and it is sharp. Like there is no blurriness, in the red on it, man, just sticks out. And
It
it's a
really
4.
does.
It's a 4, so I paid, good money for it. But yeah, that I wanted a really nice representation because that Cobb is the one that I always saw as a kid.
yep.
And then the green one, I'm trying to do all 4, so I'm one short. I don't have the bat on shoulder, and the reason is because Petty got a great example of that. But the bat on shoulder to me, out of all four of those, is the hardest one to find with good registration. It tends to be a little blurry. So I'm a little pickier about that one. But the green one is the most expensive of the four typically.
Yep. Yep.
And so I kept looking, but in a let's just say you get a green one in a 3, that's $11,000 to $12,000 card, whereas a red might be 8. So it's more. So I was determined to stick to my guns and find a low grade, high eye appeal Cobb. And that one showed up on eBay of all places.
Mhm.
And it fit the bill. I mean, out of all my Cobbs, that one's the nicest. The green is not that really dark emerald green. It's more of a John Deere green, which fits me perfect where I live.
Mhm.
So I liked it. The registration's pretty sharp, but I don't show up the back on that. But let me show you the back. This is why I got a 1.5. It was in a
There you
scrapbook.
go.
So it's got the glue, and that doesn't bother me, man.
I like it with the glue. I like it with the tape. I like it with the tobacco stains, with
But look,
dishonest corners.
I mean, honestly, that's a better picture of it than even my picture. But the
That's
green,
great.
it looks fantastic, man. And to get a 1.5
Looks as
on
green
that,
as my cup.
yeah. So I'll tell you on that one, I just said the eye appeal on that is $11,000 to $12,000 card. I paid $5,500 for it just
Mhm.
because of that glue spot on the back. So, that's the challenge to me. That's a lot of fun trying to get a really nice card for what I consider a bargain price, even though it's still a lot of
Mhm.
money.
Mhm.
But it doesn't look like a $5,500 card when you know what those greens cost. So yeah, I'm still on the lookout for the bat on shoulder, and I'll
Yeah,
grab
these were routinely during the pandemic going for a card like that was going for 10,000 when you blinked. You
Yeah,
know, they went from 2,000 to 10,000 like in a month.
yeah,
It was really brutal.
And that green you got on eBay?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I had a search for that card on eBay, and so they'd always pop up.
and then he jumped on it. That's the
Yeah,
thing. You got it when you see
Right.
something and you think, I wonder if that's the card. If you wait an hour or two or overnight, that card's gone.
yeah.
And that was
So
it was a
be
buy it now?
decided.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
he
That
made
was
an
on
offer.
auction.
That was an
Oh, that one
auction.
was on an auction.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had it on my Gixxon, and I kind of did a power bid on it, knowing I wanted it, and it
Oh yeah,
fit what I was looking for, and I got it. So
yeah.
Well,
I'm a big
some people are scared away by that back. That's
yeah.
probably
Good for
how
them.
yeah, good for them, exactly. I
that
mean,
back saved me $6,000.
that's, that's what I say about the pinhole on my Diamond Stars. Jimmy Fox saved me about
Yeah,
$1,000.
yeah.
Yeah, and if the card tells a story, and you'll get over it.
Yeah,
I don't ever look at
and
that.
it's the difference is some of these cards the backs are standard backs, but when you've got a rare back, you want the back to look good,
Yeah,
right? This is sweet cap, so it's not even
yeah.
that big of a deal.
It's a
Yeah,
350 too.
yeah. Oh, more low eye appeal.
There we go. This is another
Very
Mike
low.
Petty group of cards
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I love those sporting lives, and I think that they are starting to pick up momentum in terms of prices, which is
They
kind of
were
a bad thing.
criminally undervalued for so many years. They've really hit their stride right
Yeah,
now. They make that in that's the pastel version. Again, much like the uh, the red one that I had there, the Philadelphia, I didn't want to pay an arm and a leg for this card. I want because I do want it, but I also want the blue. They make that in a blue, and which I'll get that. That's still on my list, but I I had I was again I found what I liked about it, and that was the centering. I like just the nature of the card, and it's for a one. Back looks good, and that's what you get. You get a little speckling here and there, and but overall, just a great portrait, great card.
Yeah,
yeah.
Won it at an auction.
And you probably paid half of what you would pay for a
Yeah,
cheap.
I mean, it was less than $3,000, like $2,500 or something.
Yeah,
Really, really reasonable. So, you can save up and you can get a beautiful card like that in your collection. Another, I really like this silk. These
yeah.
are, I saw these silks a couple years ago, I didn't really know what they were. Did a little research on them. What they, they do come with a backing, and they were advertising for tobacco. And but on this particular card, or with the Cobb, they make it also in a yellow. But there's only 20 of these, and they're all authentic. There's none of them. They don't grade them with missing backs, and there's none of these with with any advertising on them. So this is really one of the nicer ones. I mean, some of these things are just ran through the ringer, or they're all creased up or messed up. So it's probably one of the nicer out of the 20. So and I got a really good deal on that. I want to think I got that on Net 54. But
Right.
just a very underrated thing, and it was not very inexpensive as well. And they've come up in price a little bit. The Here's a card here that I just love. I watched one of our buddies, our new buddies, Brian in Strongsville, buy one with Steve Wilk. We talked about that. I was basically what I said. I think this card is one of the most underrated cards in the hobby. Very hard to find with all the gold here.
Yeah.
This was newly discovered, fresh to the hobby. So therefore, I had to have it. It was centered. It had, the gold, a little bit of the gold missing, but it had good registration, great color. Otherwise, no creasing. Back was nice, recent grade, and paid through the ass on it for that card. But still, I still believe that card is very undervalued. You can get them for in the twos to threes
Yeah.
thousands, and if you can find it in a 1.5 or a 2 with some back damage, you're onto something.
Yeah.
Like Brian did in Strongsville from Steve Wilk, and I don't think Steve Wilk discounted the card much at all. But I mean, it might have been a 1.5, but the card was nicer than this, I believe. As far as like the corners, these are honest corners. Look at the beautiful. That's what I like. I like
Yeah.
honest corners.
Yeah.
This is
Where did you
the way
get
I
this
remember
one
him as
from?
a kid.
Where'd you get this one from?
This one was on a Heritage auction, I think, or a RE, one of the auction houses that
Okay.
whoever uses the verbal blowjobs all the time with the newly discovered fresh to the hobby. Because when I
Step
see
break.
that, I
Step
know I
break.
have to have it. Yeah. Set break.
Fresh, fresh to the hobby.
Ah, look at these. Holy moly.
Yeah. So that the American Caramel, the E90-1, again, Petty had that one, showed it a minute ago.
Right.
I love that card. Like the picture of
That's
that
beautiful.
thing, it doesn't really do it justice. Like your Sam Crawford, I've got that Sam Crawford as well. When you look at it, it almost has a 3-dimensional feel to it,
Yeah.
with the background, with that sunset. So really wanted that one. I can't remember which auction house I won that off of. Thought I got a really good deal on it, but at a 2.5, the eye appeal on that one, is really strong.
That is,
Um,
again, with the centering, these cards are
mhm.
notorious off-centered.
Yeah.
That you don't see them like that.
Yeah, so I'm fired up to own that
Yeah.
one. I think it's a good picture of him.
Yeah.
And then the Cracker Jack, that one is one that, man, I was obsessed because I love Cracker Jacks. The cards are just amazing to me. They're way before their time. The design of those are absolutely gorgeous to me. It's my favorite pre-war set.
Yeah,
And of
they're
course,
getting out of hand. They're getting really hard to buy
yeah,
right now,
and
and it's the longer you wait.
yeah, and Cobb cards and the Cracker Jack sets don't show up that often.
No.
This one right here showed up on the Facebook group, the Cracker Jack Collective.
Yep.
And I reached out to the guy, and he was asking 15 to 20% over comps. And I reached out to him. He's a really nice fella. And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, man, I think you've got this thing overpriced. And here's where I comp it at. I'm comping it at X amount, and I'll give you that amount for it. But I'm not giving you what you're asking. So, if you want to sell it now, that's what I'll do, and I'll buy it from you." And honestly, I think bottom line was he knew what he had, but this was a big card for him and his son. They flip cards. That's what they do. And his son's a really young guy. And it's terrible that I can't remember their name, because I should really tell you their name. But it's been over a year now. And so what was really interesting, this was a really large card for them, and they obviously were going to make money off of it at Comps because he agreed to the deal. And here's the really cool part. They live in New Jersey. They didn't want to mail this card to me. So at no cost of mine, they got on a flight to Nashville airport. I told them which baggage claim to meet me by. I parked in the parking garage, walked in the airport. They come walking down there, just the greatest people, man. And they had on their t-shirts and had their card company and handed me the card down there. I feel like it was a drug deal or something.
And it's a great card
too. I'd already paid for it. You know, I had PayPal'd them the money, and they handed me the card, and we took pictures with the card and all that kind of stuff. But you talk about some customer service. But I think they had never had a card this size, and they were scared to mail it. And
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them at all.
And didn't charge me for that. And so I got a card at Comps. They hand delivered it to the airport, and yeah. So, anyways, I love this card. It's a 1. I'm not sure what it would get if it were PSA. If you really, you know, Mangini just did the thing where you're not supposed to talk about the flaws, but you know, it's a well-deserving 1. I mean, but it's a 1914, and you know, in lieu of a 15. And I'm not that guy. Like, I'll take a 15 or 14. I don't care. To me, I'd rather have a 15 and not pay the 14 tax. But I love this card, and so I bought it. And right now, you know, if this were a house, I've got $6,000 equity in it just on how much that sucker's gone up since I bought it. So, yeah, good investment piece, honestly.
Yeah, it's you know, it is a 1, and I don't know why it's a 1. You know, I can't really tell. I mean, obviously, I could see some of the markings and stuff, but I mean, eye appeal wise,
they're probably caramel too on the back. You can see on the bottom.
So one of the things on the back, it's got writing on the back. So
there you go.
Somebody wrote DIV or something. I don't know what that is, but it's been there for 100 years, and so that doesn't bother me. You know, that would be an MK designation if it were PSA. But the reason it got a 1, you can't really see it, man. That that mark right here, that's actually a little small tear.
Oh, tear.
And then there's one up top right there. So again, when you see a scan and you look at it from this distance, which is the distance I will hold it when I look at it, I can't see that crap. If you got to have a loop to see it, I'm saving money by
I don't need it. It's exactly.
So it's still you know, Comps on this one right now is probably 34,000. So, and I didn't pay that, but I mean, it's a 14. So in the 14 Cracker Jacks, you know, the pop counts are a lot lower in the 14s over the 15s because they were only available inside the boxes. They're also thinner, and I showed that in my Cracker Jack episode if you want to watch it, but they're thinner, and I showed 2 raw ones side by side, and you can feel the weight of them in your fingertips. You can't really tell just by your eyeballs, and you can tell they're flimsier than the 15s if you shake them. So they're condition sensitive, and they break and all this other stuff. So, but what I'm getting at, the 1914 Cracker Jack Ty Cobb, I think, is the highest pop count of any 1914. Whereas Joe Jackson, I think, has around 100. I think his is 200. Hold on, I got that right here. I'll look it up real quick.
Did some research.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like knowing that stuff.
Me too.
There's 162 of these, whereas Joe Jackson, I think, there's 100. And I think part of that is because Cobb, again, he was this Michael Jordan of that age, man.
Yeah.
If you had one of those, you took care of it. You know, it wasn't a common. So they lasted a little longer, I think, because of that.
I think that's right. I mean, you know, we were collectors years ago. If you get the big hit, you know, you take care of that card. You put it to the side or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure they put it in plastic as soon as they put the card, they put it in the sleeve.
I don't want to think about that guy. So there we go. We got. I
Oh,
love
these are some
20s
nice
cards.
ones.
I'm not 20s, but I mean the Collins McCarthy is a 17. But
It's
I love
amazing.
black and white cards of this
I do
era, of
too.
this size. You
I
know.
didn't used to like them. That's why I wish I would have bought them earlier. What I didn't like. Like I always say, buy what you don't like, because someday you're gonna like it, and it's gonna cost you double. So yeah, I love the Lennon McCartney card, which I always call it. The backs are just gorgeous, you know.
Yeah, they are.
Love Ellen.
This is an A. You can see that.
And by the way, those backs, that's the first time the term Hall of Fame was ever used on something in
I know
public.
what. I know how to get a solo.
Boy, I'll tell you, that looks
Look at
pretty good.
that.
I never get it that nice. Yeah, and I'm happy with the, like, you look at the grade on this. It looks much nicer than the grade, which I love, because this is a very low pop. Let's take a look at the pop. That's a pop 1, so it's the only A. There's 11 higher, but there's only 12 graded. And if you look at the ones that are graded, this one's the nicest out of all
Yeah.
of them.
Well,
So
that happens with
it's
the A's
probably
sometimes.
before, yeah, but
Yeah.
this is probably before the designation. It would, like, if it came out today, it would probably say, evidence of trimming. You look,
Well,
it's
it
got a
might
little
also
trim,
be
but I don't
min
care if
size,
it's trimmed.
which they
Yeah, I
you know
don't know.
have.
I don't. I think I mean, to me, I believe it. It was sold as evidence of trimming, and I
Yeah.
Okay.
believe it from what I can
Okay.
see, like on the side here, without having the card in my hand. Like I said, I don't give a shit. It looks great. It's rare as hell, and just a beautiful pose of the guy. And then the one in the middle, American Caramel, that's a fairly, I think, what is that? It's the 21,
Yeah. E121.
E121. Uh,
I guess he's got two
uh,
variations in that set because the one on the
yeah,
right.
there's the one with the
Yeah.
variation. Yeah, the one that the throwing right, I guess it is. And there's another one with the pose, like the one to the right, I think.
Yeah. It
But
looks like that shoulder pose almost.
this one's a low pop too. There. This one's a popsicle looking right, pop 2, 6 higher, only 18 graded by SGC, and a handful from PSA.
Wow.
So these cards, and again, 1.5, nothing wrong with the back. Um, just a gorgeous back. I
Yes.
think a
This the
1.5.
one.
I mean, to look at it, you probably say, I don't know, maybe there's no real imperfections that I can see on the card, which is beautiful. Go ahead and give it a 1.5.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the American
Oops.
Caramel.
Sorry.
Yeah, the 22 E121. That's a pretty tough one. I got that from William Chappell in Strongsville last year. Couldn't pass it up. It was just a hard, kind of a tough art card to find. They have them on eBay occasionally, and they come up for auction once in a while. But even that one, um, yeah, only 11 graded by SGC. Pop. That's a pop 1, one higher.
Wow.
Tony probably has it. Tony probably has the higher one.
No, well, yeah, it is a little higher, but it's in PSA. We could do the Moynihan, Chris from Missouri thing.
The showdown.
There it
the
is.
showcase showdown.
So yeah, so mine right there, it's a 3, but it doesn't have the eye appeal. Yours, it's off center. But I picked
If
that. I picked that one up in last year at the National. But again, that's the baggie that Petty hates. The card ain't
Well,
centered.
I
They did
just
a terrible
it
job.
doesn't sit there, and they're great. I just think that they can do a better job with the overall appeal.
Yeah,
With the top there. If they would put that frosting all the way around the card, and move
just
the
center it.
margins in of the
Yeah.
center,
The guardrails are
the
off.
guardrails,
Yeah,
whatever you call them.
yeah.
It was
So
last night
Beautiful card though.
in the Heritage auction show. There was an Oxford confectionery Babe Ruth
Yeah.
that Dave had an example of that card, and he showed it on the screen, and it was a PSA, and it was off centered in the slab, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is like a $20,000-$30,000 card, and they couldn't put the guardrails to keep the
yeah,
card
And
from
they
bouncing
do a
around.
terrible job on those Oxfords. I have one too that I left.
Yeah,
It's in the old holder, nice and tight in the SGC holder. Looks
yeah.
beautiful. And then if you look at the SGC, like what they're doing now, like the ones that were in the auction last night. I really wanted to bid on the Cobb and they had some really nice ones, but they look like shit in the holders, and I'm not going to buy them
Yeah.
when they've got an inch around them all the way. They look okay in the pictures because you put a black. You leave the top open on the scanner, or you put a black on the bottom. But when you hold them up, you've got the big light.
Yeah.
It's white.
Yeah.
It's you see, they're see through them, and they look like shit. If the older holder on the Oxfords look great. Um, I mean, like, let's see if I have mine around here. I mean, I just happen to have mine. If you want to take here's another example of this. The
And now we're
Ruth.
looking at Babe Ruth cards.
Yeah, but I
Hold
mean,
on.
just to show you how
Let me
it's
solo you.
look how it's put in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's not
Yes.
great.
You know,
That's
and
not
that's
great.
a pour. Isn't it terrible? It's just awful. It's so poor.
So
Man,
poor.
look, that's beautiful, dude.
Yeah, it's got the back's great. I mean, whoever graded it has shit for brains. I mean, it's got a little paper loss here.
Well,
Whatever, you can have
the
it.
reason I picked up that, other than I like collecting Cobb, but
Yeah.
that's a Francis P. Burke image. He was out of Chicago, and he did a lot of the famous images for these cards. And so, anyways, he took that image, and if you'll notice, that's the same image that's on the Cracker Jack card.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my idea was I knew there's 4 main cards with that image on it, and I wanted all 4 of them. So I got that one. I also at one point had the sepia postcard. I actually ended up selling that because I gave up on that foursome. The other card was a novelty cutlery card, and it was a
Oh,
little bit more on the rare side. And man, when I started pricing those, they don't come up very often. They're very low pop count. And man, it
yeah.
was in the $50,000 range. And I said, you know what? I don't want it that bad.
I
So
don't think I
So,
want to
those
collect
novelty
postcards.
cutlery cards are pretty low on eye appeal generally, also.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
they're
And if you
ink
get
cut.
one that's decent, you're paying out the nose for it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's not even that good looking of a card. I could see paying 50 grand for a Cracker Jack because it's a beautiful
yeah,
card. But
that's
one of
right.
those toy,
Yeah,
punk, all
yeah,
those in the mid-20s where they're just like the cards themselves are not worth the money.
yeah, yeah.
You got a Globe. The Globe store is I think
Very rare.
it's one of the backs of the M1014s, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one, I think the graded pop count, let me look it up. It's 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's really a something.
It is, yeah, there's only 5 combined with PSA and SGC. So
And that's
not a
probably one
lot
of
of
the
those out
best looking.
there. I fired up about having that one. That was actually my first Cobb card I picked up when I
That was a
started
doozy.
going after them.
Yeah.
And I knew the back was rare. I looked up the pop count, and I thought I got a really good price on it for what it is. And if that were in PSA, I think it would really drive the price up because all the registry guys would need to get that because there's not many out there and to give them points. But that one's got a lot of staining on it, as you can see.
Yeah.
Here's the you can kind of, but when you got a pop count of 5, and here's the back, so it sat in some
Right.
water at one point, and it's an old card, so the dirt kind of, it just shows it. But yeah, it's still a great card.
And look at the
And,
centering on it. You know how those
yeah,
cards are really tough.
yeah. So I
Mhm.
like the centering on it, and it's a great card, but I'm fired up to have it. And so, there's still some out there that I want, but one of the reasons I really went after that one, I just picked up my M101. I think it's a 5 Joe Jackson card. It's a famous in bar. And so
Yeah.
those two guys are so closely intertwined. It happened with my Cracker Jacks. I wanted to have both of their Cracker Jack cards. So I do. I wanted to have both of their M101s, and I do. And then, so Petty has the Collins McCarthy card. I have the Boston Store Joe Jackson, and there was a Boston Store Ty Cobb that was on an auction recently, but it was the highest graded available, and that one's rarer than the Collins McCarthy. And I wanted it because I wanted to pair those two together. So I'll probably end up getting one like Petty's at some point to pair with my Joe Jackson. but I just haven't.
They're tough. They are tough. They're definitely
Yeah,
you're definitely bidding against, the Jeff Lickmans of the world if they already don't have one or two of them.
yeah, no doubt.
I think he might be selling a
And
couple.
his pockets are a little deeper than mine.
Yeah,
I'm not,
just a
I'm not
little.
winning that battle.
Me neither. Yeah, I'm not going to beat him out in any auctions. That's for sure. Yeah. So let's see. What are the one on the left here? This is the 1922 E122. This is a really rare set.
Yeah.
These cards don't come out very often, and this one was newly discovered by our good friend Howard. So I was blessed enough to steal that from another dealer that would have definitely played merry-go-round with all the dealers, if I didn't grab that right before the show started. I think that's let's see, that one's got a pop one higher. There's only 6 total graded by SGC and PSA
Who,
together.
you got that at
So
Strongsville? Just
at Strongsville, just on the most recent trip.
and who was the dealer? Do you know?
Howard Chaser.
It was Chasser. Okay.
Yeah, Chaser, chasing the money.
And
So anyway, yeah, very, very nice card though. It presents well. That's that classic pose that you see all the time, and there's other card, that looks a lot, presents like the 1921, but just you can tell the card in the hand, the printing when you see
oh,
it. You can just in the bottom.
is this the purchase that when the other dealer came over and had wanted it to
Yeah,
buy
that
it?
was with Ed Burns. He was looking for it, and I had just bought it.
Ed Hands is a terrific guy, but
Yeah.
yeah, you beat him to the punch.
Yeah, he went like that. I was made me happy once I bought it. So
And then the Nielsen's,
the
which
Nielsen's a really tough card.
tough set.
Doesn't get the love that it deserves. There's I love the ornate border. This one, has nice, decent centering. It is the Type 2, so it's got the back. It doesn't have the back that is most coveted, at least the one that I covet.
Right.
Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. It's got look at it. I even have a sticker on the back. Pop 8, 7 higher, only 23. This is the Type 2 Nielsen's back.
Yeah.
The Type 1 has the more ornate, or like the
More ornate, right?
chocolate company logo on it, which I don't. I have another one, but yeah. So I like it. It's kind of a placeholder. It has the crease right across it, but it doesn't offend me too much. I enjoy the card. And then the Maple Crispet Canadian issue, kind of a tough card to find. I think it's about, I want to say there's either 28 or 48 in the set. It's kind of a neat set. Walter Johnson's in it, Babe Ruth's in it, and just saw this one. I think I picked this up on through a dealer in Net 54, I want to say. Also, possibly, yeah, I think so. But anyway, pretty nice. These are some more of mine. Let's see. So let's see the 1923. Trying to see where I got that.
Yeah, the W572 is a set I'm familiar with. I have the Hornsby from that set.
It's kind of it's not very much appreciated.
Yeah,
set.
Mancini says he's close to completing the set. I'm pretty sure
No
Mancini
kidding.
has this card, the W572. I think he wants my Hornsby, but it's not worth what I paid for it, so I don't want to lose money.
And this one here, I have it down as it was a population 1, none higher, 10 total graded by SGC, and 7 of them are authentic. So they don't generally grade these too easily unless because they are hand cut.
Yeah.
I think with PSA total, there's 25 graded. And
I have another Jack
like
Quinn
that.
from that set, also the 572. That's hand cut, and
and I think these cards are actually really neat. These cards can be had for a really good price. Not only Cobb, but the entire set. I mean, it's just nice with the little script down on the bottom. And then they have the most popular, pictures on them and stuff.
Yeah,
which they get pretty redundant here after a while. But
I picked up the Moranville from this set too, which I think is a 4, which is kind of one of the top graded from that, but also fairly cheap. Not all that popular, but low pop. And then there's the 27 American Caramel E126, a set that I was not familiar with until I picked up a card from it at Strongsville.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough set. Again, another really hard set to get. That's a population 2, 2 higher, only 7 graded, and these can get a little pricey. I think it's a 1.5, obviously, so
Yeah.
it's not too bad, but it's got great eye appeal. The back's great. Just has a little paper loss there, which is again, you don't even really see it up near the left top. And again, just happy to have it. This is over the last 5 years, just trying to, fill holes. You see something nice, oh, then you find out a little bit more about the set.
Yep.
Kind of what I've been doing. Same
When,
way
when
with
you
the New
when you're
York.
type collecting,
Yeah.
and your Cobb is the only example you have from the set, you're doing pretty well.
Well, that's all yeah, that's pretty much I'm trying to
There's a
get
Ruth in
those
the
guys
set too,
first.
by the way.
Oh yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
that's one's avoided me too. It's pretty
Yeah.
expensive.
Tough. And then you got the York. So
The
that's
York,
the E126 is the final American caramel set that was ever produced. But there are other caramel cards from that year, including York caramel that
the
you have on
York,
there.
another tough issue.
Yeah.
You don't see them very often. This seller here is the guy I got it from. He's a baseball scout. He lives about 20 miles from me. I met
Oh,
him in
nice.
the Whole Foods parking lot, and he made me a nice cash offer. Just one of those guys you see at all the shows and everything. Really a great dealer, and I was happy to have that.
So the York, same pose.
All the poses that I wanted to put in there. And then when you get to the 1928s,
Yep.
you get, to my favorite ice cream cards. The W502, they call that like the last issue. It's like one of the last years that he played.
Yep.
So, last playing day, but the card. And that's also, yeah, it's pretty, I don't know. A lot of these they're pretty rare,
Yeah.
This one is a pop one, 2 higher, only 7 graded. It's a rare blank back in the PSA. But these were some of the things that I, was seeking out or were available when I was buying them. These other two, the one on the right, I know I traded that with Ash at last year at Strongsville. It's just lathered in ice cream, which I do like my ice cream cards, really, to be honest with you, with ice cream on them.
Hey, Mike.
And you can get them in a 1.
Mike, how do you say that set name right there?
Yin Yang. That's the yin yang ice cream and the herringbone.
I love it when
Next
you
to it. The herringbone, and then of course there's the Tharps, which one of our friends won that, Tony, that Tharps card.
yeah.
They had one came out. It was a
Oh,
beautiful
yeah.
3. It went
Yingling's
to the
ice
moon,
cream is
man.
interesting because in
You
the
know who bought it.
1920s, Yingling is a beer brewer.
Yeah.
In the 1920s, they couldn't brew beer, so they made ice cream.
Oh,
I like their beer too. I only get a chance to drink it though when I'm in Strongsville, but it's pretty good. And those cards are really nice. And
Last
anytime
year's,
you can get any of the ice
yeah,
cream cards, especially in Cobb, I strongly
yeah,
suggest you make a play for them, even if they look like this.
I think they look fun.
Yeah, especially if they look like that.
Hey, real
Sports King.
quick, before we jump on this, I think I'm dealing with a concussion, so I can't think straight, but I looked up. I don't want to be the jerk that talks about the guys that flew my card to me and I can't remember their name, but I looked them up on Instagram. There's the picture of them handing me the card. They put this on their Instagram. It's Keith and Ryan from Father Son Sports. I want to pub them. I want to give them some publicity. But yeah, they took the picture, and that's me with his son Ryan. It's actually his business. And so anyways, that they posted the plane.
Gee, look at they took a private plane. You must have got you good on that.
And so anyways, they never left the airport, but just great guys. And I want to pub them. Like, man, I've never had that kind of service. So I want to give them credit for that.
So they flew into Nashville and they didn't go into Nashville and have a little Nashville.
They had like a 5-hour layover until they got on the plane and flew back. So hey, man, I'm giving them credit.
Classic. You're getting them at the airport. Mike Petty's doing them at Trader
I'm doing drug deals in my car, all the time. Just like the 80s.
Yeah. All right, so this one right here, it's not a playing days.
Classic though.
But this one again, was on it might have been on the yearly Beckett book you got or something. You know, I'd get one for Christmas every year. I'd get one of the Beckett books, and it was soft cover, but it was thick. And that card stuck out to me. And so, you know, I always remembered that card. Now, I didn't know anything about the set back then. I didn't even know that he wasn't with the Tigers when I was a kid in this picture. That's him with the A's. But you know, yet that was a card from my childhood. So I wanted that card. And I didn't, again, like Petty's explained so many times, I wanted the card. It didn't matter to me the condition. I didn't want a big crease through his eyebrow. But you know, the fact it's got some staining on it or whatever, I'm good with that.
Definitely on my list too. I mean,
I've got the card.
it's a must have.
But you know, there were 3 baseball cards in that set. It was him, Babe Ruth, and Carl Hubble. And so yeah, that's all that was in the set. I didn't know any of that, you know, but back in the day. But I love the card. Now I wish it were a brighter yellow. That again, in my pre-order, I want brightness. But again, I got it for a really good price.
Especially with your concussion, you need it much brighter if you can't see. You practically blind.
I was in a. By the way, I was in a car accident yesterday, so that's what I'm referencing. So
you're a team player.
Well, thank you for doing the show with the you know.
Oh, man, it's good.
Bumps and bruises and everything.
I'm still here.
So we got one more card. That's it.
I actually have one that I don't think I don't know if I didn't send you the picture or whatever, it didn't pop up or what, but I'll show that at the end. This is the I like to call it the 19. Not sure when this was made. If it was the 1930s, they call it. So it's sometime between 1930 and 1939. I call it the Rodney Pete. Ty Cobb, but it's the Rogers Pete, and it's a set that's gaining a little bit of traction. The Hornsby, I picked one of those up in an auction recently in a kind of, in a lower grade. It's a set that there's only so many Hall of Famers. I think it's not straight baseball, so there's a lot of other sports figures in it. But this one I bought, strangely enough, from Ash at one of the California shows. He had this card for over a year in his case. He had a big price tag on it, as you know, like he likes to do. And it was in an older holder, and the card was slipping out. It was because they're fairly thin. It looked like hell. And I said, dude, I wasn't going to buy anything that day from anybody, really. I mean, it was kind of not the greatest show, but I said, I'll make a play for this. I think he had 4,000 on it or something. I said, dude, this card, there's no way it's even worth 3,000. I'll give you 3,000. You've had it for a year. It looks like shit. Look at it. It's coming out of the holder. And then, Ash, he's always going to say, can you do 31? He always has to get that extra. Can you do 31 or 2? I said, I think he said, can you do 32? I said 31 and not a penny more. And then I got that for 31.
Did you write a check?
No, I didn't. I actually had a little cash because I wasn't starving yet. I wasn't arrested for vagrancy, but had a little cash on me. And then I got it reholdered, and it came out, looked great.
That's awesome.
So
the reholder,
and it's not particularly that rare in that you think it would be for that grade. But I think there's like 5 or 6 in that grade, and there's probably, maybe 20 of them floating around. And
what is Rogers Pete?
I think it was a clothing company, I believe. I want to think so. I don't know.
What's the back look like on that one, Petty? You got it?
I think it's blank back, just a blank.
Okay.
What's the card that I missed?
That's why it was this one.
Oh, I love that.
The Breakfast of Champions.
That's a big one too.
Yeah, I have to show that. That's the first time I was chasing this card here for 2.5 years. It was on my list probably.
What is it? The Miners?
This one there's 2 backs. This is the Honest. Of course, right. You know me, I like honest corners, so I got the Honest back. I think the Miners back is probably a little more rare.
Yeah.
But again, this one here presents very well. These are so hard to find. in a decent grade, they can get up to 20,000 in a 2 and a 3. And people are asking, if they have this kind of eye appeal, they're asking on eBay like 15,000, or it's just
Yep.
totally unreasonable. This particular card I was an underbidder on this card at the Heritage auction back in 2023, and it came up again on eBay and on an auction, and I won it for like $500 less at a really
Awesome.
good price. I've been looking for it for Ash Adam. They were all beat to hell. And this one, it just has, across the top here, it's got a little, it's not a little, but it's like a wrinkle all the way across. Doesn't go through the back. It's under his name. It's not offensive. The rest of
It's
the
a
card is
beautiful
just
card. I love
beautiful.
that
It
card.
I
is.
mean, so I really like that. I've been trying to add that for a while. That's what happens. Good thing happen when you wait. When you're patient, that's really a key to this game for sure.
Well, I did a Tigers show like a year ago, and one of the Tigers guys had the minors on, so it's actually in the thumbnail for that particular.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
I
will
saw
link.
that. That was a great show. Those were
Yeah,
were super collectors.
that's Brent, who will be back on the channel to do an Al Kaline show at like the end of June.
Oh, I
Awesome.
love Alkaline.
Yeah, so Al Kaline. I've got what else do I have coming up? I've got a Diamond Star show coming up. I've got some dealers coming up. I got a lot going on in the channel.
You're busy. You're busy,
I am
baby.
busy.
You got a lot channel. You got a lot going.
And I got 4 collector stuff to do also. I got a 4 collector show I'm recording on Tuesday, and then I got a live on June 1st. So
It's amazing you can even work.
I do work though.
And you got to move your card room. I mean, dang.
Yeah.
This is it.
You
This
got
is
a lot
the
of shit
last.
whizzing.
This is the end of the last show with the old
end
card
of an
room.
era.
You're busier than a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest. That's busy.
You might be the new Beaver Feet.
He is. He's busy building dams with his little feet. Like Tony.
Now I just got Beaver Feet. Now I understand it. So
Because he is busy. Tony does a lot with his time, and he not only with baseball cards, he's on graciously done all these shows and whatnot, but I mean works. He's got a lot going on. We got kids. He's flying all over the place. I mean, he's just I admire him so much, as you know.
Well, you've always joked to me about the super collector thing, Mike.
I can't believe it only took me about 5 years to make it on this. I finally made it on the
I
big
want the
time.
record to be clear, because I have text receipts. You have been invited on this show before.
I never got
like 6 months ago.
I never felt that I really had any. It's funny because the collectors you do have on your shtick with the super collectors. Like I don't consider myself really a super collector in any one facet. I have a broad interest. I have a lot of meat in my burrito, so I spread it out a little bit, but occasionally I hit a homer.
Well, I called you a super duper collector, Mike Petty, and Tony.
That's very
super
nice.
duper collectors, but you're also super duper human beings, and I really do appreciate
thanks,
both.
Dan. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
And as hobby colleagues, and look forward to seeing you guys. I guess at the National, right?
Yeah, baby.
They'll be there.
Better believe it.
All right. So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna. Oh, that's right. We've talked about this. I think we're gonna go out.
A little walk. We have a walk set up. We're gonna have some lunch.
We have a walk set up. Yeah.
You already mapped out the walk. The walk.
That's awesome.
And there's some
exercise.
there's some good restaurants around there.
Yeah.
There's one right around the corner from. I think I'm in the Crown Plaza or something. I don't know. I'm in the suite.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, you guys are in the rich suites. I'm down
I'm in a suite with the 4
Lion.
collectors guys, and it's like
they've got unlimited budget with that.
So do y'all wear your shirts and hats around the suite like at nighttime just to hang out?
Like a club, like a Cub Scout.
I had in Strongsville, I had my 4 collectors jersey on a hanger. It was the only thing in the hanger in the closet that I had. So
it's the only nice shirt you brought.
It's like we don't have the Batman thing where we go down the pole and it comes on.
Well, me and Petty need to get an Odd Couple shirts that we wear.
Yeah, you got
absolutely. I would buy
Tony's
the
got
Odd
the
Couple
hot new
shirt in a
show,
moment.
man. He's got tons of watchers and viewers.
Oh man,
he's got the Matrixes, and everybody's talking about it.
Well, I'm looking.
Don't
forward
forget to watch the Odd
Couple.
Couple.
I watch it as soon as it shows up as available, I watch it because it's
Oh,
fun.
and Tony has been swallowing a lot of aggression lately. He had a little minute last time, but this next one, I think it could be a point counterpoint.
Yeah. This past
Well,
week has been a doozy.
the Tony Minute should become a thing. I'm going to
Yeah.
be a proponent of the Tony Minute. But you
Uh-huh.
know, when I do this thing that we're doing with Greg and Mike and Jake, the community service project, which
Yeah.
we've done 2 now. We're going to do one in Hobby Palooza, which news that I'm breaking.
Oh,
right.
nice. That's
But
big
everybody
news.
gets a rant in that show.
Awesome.
So we all 4 of us did the rant last time, and the 3 of us the time before.
But those are
So
like
we're
coherent rants, and the thing I like is I like having no notes and just like winging it for a minute,
Petty
yelling
over
and
there.
screaming.
Petty's
But-
popping blood pressure pills.
Oh,
and
that
washing
was
down with
that was
bourbon
so
and
wasn't
throwing
that
stuff in the air.
classic? With the bourbon and nothing's better than a blood pressure pill and some alcohol. I'll tell you, it really.
there you go. Wash it down
It
with
didn't
bourbon.
help.
Better wash down.
But
with bourbon.
I really like doing that show too because it also brings out another side of Tony. I think that people don't usually get to see, kind of a little playful side, and gets a little bit more animated. And
Well, so
I can
we'll
bring
break
out the
this.
worst. I can bring out the worst and the nicest people.
We're doing Hobby Palooza too, the odd couple.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're
Yes.
gonna
We've talked about that. So
That'll be
I'm
our
gonna
first
end the
Odd Couple
recording so
live-
we can
live,
we can
uh,
chat
show.
off screen because the viewers
Yeah, they're
have
tired.
seen all the greatest Ty Cobb cards. Again, thank you, both of you. Tremendous people, tremendous collections. So happy to have done this show. So viewers, we will see you back here next Saturday.